What is going on today, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fix It Garage. Today we are back on the Volkswagen Superu Beetle project. We're going to continue with the wiring. We're going to start thinning out the harness. First of all, we're going to start off by using these nice electrical wiring diagrams and ECU pinouts that I have found to mark everything that I know I'm gonna need, and then we're gonna start tracing the wires around, and we're gonna start doing some of it kind of freehand and then figuring it out from there. So let's go ahead and let's get the main ECU harness up on this table, and we can start labeling wires, and then we can start cutting out all the stuff that we don't need, I guess. All right, guys, so here's our wire harness from the last time where we deloomed everything. We left all the connectors on, which is both a good and a bad thing. Good because it'll make it easy to find different things. Bad because a lot of guys will hack a bunch of this out when they cut it out of the car because they already know what they do and don't need. Because I don't, I figured I'd keep all of it and figure it out later. We're gonna start off by focusing here on this ECU plug. We're gonna work on labeling everything in this ECU plug and then move on to start removing wires that we don't need. So we're gonna go ahead and roll the time lapse. So you're gonna see me start trying to label all the wires inside of this harness. So let's get to work. All right, guys, that was a lot of labeling. I mean, look at all that. So I've labeled every single pin on the ECU for figuring out what I need and what I don't need. So from here, I already know what wires I can get rid of. There's a couple of AC things and some other things like for the fuel system that we're just not gonna need because it's not gonna exist on this car. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna remove them. We're gonna remove them probably about 2 to 3 inches from the ECU, and then we can pull them out of the harness completely. We're gonna start with that, and then we're gonna work on thinning out the rest of the harness, but let's go ahead and start removing the things that we know we can remove from, basically from the ECU pinouts, and then we'll start working on the rest of this rat's nest. Okay guys, it is actually the next day. Here's where we're left with. After I cut the cameras off, I cut out a few more extra wires just because I saw some things I needed to clip. We're not done yet. We've weeded out a lot of stuff that we don't need, but we're continuing to weed out even more. A lot of guys tell you to throw basically this whole harness in the trash, which isn't really wrong, but I want to do things a little bit different with this one. A lot of guys use the Volkswagen ignition and all that. No, I want to use the Subaru ignition with the Subaru key. This car, the key on it, the original Subaru stuff's all janky. The Subaru, I have a nice key for it and a nice ignition, and I can also put kill switches in this, which I'm not gonna show you guys where those are. I would rather use as much of this as possible and actually attempt to keep both of the circuits separate. So you have your Subaru, which will power ignition, engine, and all the engine functions, and then the Volkswagen stuff, which will power like the radio, the wipers, the lights, the turn signals, the reverse lights, that kind of stuff. So I'm working towards that by slowly thinning out the harness. A lot of it comes down to, I have wiring diagrams now, which is super helpful. Sometimes not as helpful as I want them to be, even printed or looking at them on big 32-inch monitors in my office, which I'll show you guys someday. But I am making headway on figuring out what is what. I've found a lot of things. I'm figuring it out from my knowledge as a mechanic. I'm doing a lot of this almost freehand right now. I do use the harnesses diagrams for reference and connector stuff for reference, but a lot of it's freehand going, okay, what is this for? Do I need it? Nope, cut it. Is this gonna somehow make the car not start? Nope, cut it. And I'm trying to work my way through the harness slowly but surely, but we're getting there. This is a lot less than what we started with. When this is done and I've thinned it out and I think I have it done, we're gonna take all of the stuff that we've clipped and we're actually gonna put it on here just to show how much harness we've removed. I'll also show before and after pictures or quick videos of the two harnesses. There's gonna be a lot of change. I'm pretty impressed with how much I've already removed, and I can already see, just looking in here, I can tell like, hey, here's a connector I don't need, here's a connector I don't need, here's another connector I don't need. I'm finding connectors all over that I don't actually need. So I'm already making more progress on it just by looking through the harness and finding more connectors that I do not need in here. This wire kind of threw me for a loop because it was one of the unlabeled PCM ones, but I figured out that's for the gauge cluster. So that was kind of a nifty thing to find. Luckily, I was able to trace it all the way from the gauge cluster connector all the way to that, which is why I kept everything from this harness. I kept all the components so I can plug everything in and kind of figure it out. Now I'm starting to have less plugs available to plug things into, and when I lose those plugs to plug into, I can then clip the whole plug off. So progress is being made. It's not as slow as the last time when we stripped everything or when we got really confused. I'm actually starting to understand it a little bit. Now that it's getting smaller, it's getting easier to figure out. So this is way easier than what it was when I started. So I'm less overwhelmed now looking at this. I know I can do this. I was worried when I started I was gonna have to send this out to somebody, but the more I look at it, the more it's like, I can handle it. And I'm trying to be creative in how I power up this whole ECU system using the Subaru stuff, like the Subaru main fuse box. I'm gonna try to cut it and keep what I need and make a new box for it, like a plate thing for it, but it'll have the main ECU power, it'll have the main power for the whole harness, it'll have everything I need in there to turn the whole car on, basically. So stay tuned, guys. You guys are seeing me struggle genuinely as I'm trying to do this. This isn't no trickery here. I do struggle doing this. This is something that I'm weaker at, that I'm trying to get better at. Hey look, another random wire. I'll have to cut that. Anyways, I am trying to get better at this, so stay tuned, guys. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna figure this harness out. Don't worry about it. But thank you guys all for watching. As always, if you guys like what you saw or you feel and you support the struggle, don't forget to smash that like button. Leave me some comments of encouragement or tell me what I'm doing wrong. Let me know down below. And do not forget to subscribe to see this car come together. I feel like once this is done and the other wiring I have to do on the actual car is done, it's gonna start to pick up the pace a little bit because we're not gonna be doing wiring on a bench. We're gonna be building cooling systems and fuel systems, and that should go a little bit quicker than what you see here. So thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.